Okay, Man, good evening to you again from Pretoria, just outside the North Gauteng High Court. What I want to do now is I want to pick up on the narrative, particularly as far as the interpreter is concerned. Now, the trial, as we have been reporting widely throughout the course of the day, starting late as they waited for an interpreter to arrive. And then problems with the interpretation didn't end there either. In fact, this has been a recurring theme throughout the course of the day here in Pretoria. The state's first witness, Michelle Burger, we've been hearing from her throughout the course of the program tonight, was forced to correct parts of the English translation of the Afrikaans.
Is there a difficulty between you and the interpreter? You must please tell me.
So,
Do you feel that she correctly interprets what you're saying?
Edler, I'll say this in English, my lady. She is interpreting what I'm saying. Some of the words are not exactly the same, and then I'm correcting her in English.
But because I see you've a number of times you've corrected.
My lady, I can do for the court. I'm willing to speak English, and at some circumstances I can go over into Afrikaans where she'll translate for me.
As long as you're comfortable to do it.
My lady, I'm very comfortable. Ek kan beide Engels en Afrikaans praat.
I can speak both English and Afrikaans.
My mother tongue is Afrikaans, so I prefer Afrikaans.
Yes.
But if it's easier for the court, I'm willing to speak English.
Well, if it's easier for you, it's you I'm worried about.
Okay. I'd speak then Afrikaans, both Afrikaans and English, when I need to speak Afrikaans.
Yes. Well, you have to make up your mind. You want to speak English? You feel you are comfortable in English?
I prefer speaking Afrikaans.
Right, all sorts of difficulties, Iman, as far as the interpretation was concerned today. Let's bring my colleague Karyn Maughan into proceedings now. She's been in court throughout the course of the day. I want to talk to you a little bit about the defence and the state's strategy, but before we get there, this interpretation issue really has degenerated into something of a farce, hasn't it? Hopefully it'll be fixed by tomorrow.
Well, I mean, South Africa has a very unfortunate history of its court interpreters or former court interpreters making headlines for all the wrong reasons. It wasn't Thamsanqa Janki this time, but the poor, unfortunate interpreter that was charged with basically interpreting this very important first day of Pistorius' case clearly didn't know particularly what she was doing. And it was so bad that at the end of Michelle Burger's evidence, she actually resorted to testifying in English. Given the emphasis that our justice system places on people being able to give evidence in their own language, it was incredibly unfortunate, and so unfortunate that the Justice Department felt it necessary to release a statement on this issue later this afternoon.
All right, let's talk strategy now. A year ago, there was this much vaunted bail affidavit, this bail explanation from Oscar Pistorius. It's very clear now how the state is going to use this in its strategy to prosecute Oscar Pistorius. What have you discerned?
Well, Oscar Pistorius made a very risky legal decision when he chose to file that bail affidavit, and it's very clear now that the state, enforcing a Schedule 6 premeditated murder case against him, forcing him to disclose his defense, has utilized that affidavit to really shape its case. Now, this evidence today was really about Oscar Pistorius' assertion that he and Reeva Steenkamp were in a loving relationship and that there was no argument that preceded the fateful shooting on Valentine's Day morning. We now see the state leading the evidence of a witness who says there were clear signs of shouting and screaming, etc., before those fatal shots were fired. Also suggesting that Reeva was in that a voice identified as a female voice, which the state will argue was Reeva Steenkamp, was in great fear for her life. Clearly trying to undermine Pistorius' claims that this was merely a tragic accident.
Maybe a little arrogant, maybe a little presumptuous of us to talk about the judge, but at this early stage, what is the conventional wisdom? Is she holding the court together? Is she managing proceedings in the way in which we thought she would?
Well, she has chosen two assessors to work with her, and I think that's an extremely, quite a profound display of humility, because she obviously realized that the legal issues at play here may require support from other people also learned in the justice system. But she's very calm, she's very measured, and she hasn't, from what I've seen of her, been swayed by the presence of cameras inside her courtroom. Remember that this is the first time in South African legal history that this is happening, and she's not showboating, she's not trying to play to the audience, she's just being procedural and fair throughout.
Basically, what you're saying is that she's just doing her job. Karyn Maughan, for the moment, thank you very much indeed. I just want to remind you that you will be able to follow this entire trial on Twitter, at ENCA News, as well as Karyn, who's just been talking to us, at Karyn Maughan, our specialist legal reporter. And she will be tweeting from court throughout the entire proceedings, as you know, Iman, set to last for the next 3 weeks.
Know more. ENCA.com.